And thanks all for joining. In this video, I'll talk about if India is going through a recession or economic slowdown, what are the reasons for the same, and how did we end up at this place. We will, as usual, as like the other videos, we'll try to dive deep into what is causing the current situation of India. So this dates back long ago, long ago, about a decade ago. Uh, you guys must be remembering the 2008 financial crisis in the world. The entire world was down. Uh, all the countries were, most of the countries were facing a recession. Even if India was not much exposed to the international economy at that time, the exposure, uh, India still got damaged by the sentiments, and stock markets really were in a free fall. So to revive the economy, uh, banks started giving a lot of loans, because at the time of recession there is a slowdown. People do not want to spend money. Companies do not want to invest money. They do not want to expand. uh, so all these situations start coming in order to solve this. Credit growth is important. Credit growth, as in companies uh, need more credit to grow, and they need credit at a cheaper rate. That is, they need loans at a cheaper rate, so that they can use that loan to to invest, to uh, develop more branches, open up factories, uh, more subsidiaries and all. And this creates a lot of jobs. And as more and more people get jobs, they spend their money, consumption picks up, and the entire GDP starts to revive. This is the process. Now, after 2008-9, uh, government reduced the interest rates, so that companies could get loans at very low rates, low interest rates. Companies could get cheaper rates, and they could expand. Now, this was the time when there was no restriction, and banks, gave a lot of loans. A lot of people. Uh, Most of the loans, they did not even check the credit quality of the borrower. Those were the times when NPAs were reaching about 15 to 16% of the total loans given. So NPAs are non-performing assets. If a borrower takes a loan and does not pay the interest on the loan for a quarter, that is 3 months or 90 days, uh, the loan is categorized in an NPA, non-performing asset. So this aggressive credit growth uh, caused the banks to be uh, caused the banks to develop more NPAs. They did not check the credit quality of the borrowers. Now, when Raghuram Rajan came, he saw the situation and he curbed it. He applied a lot of restrictions so that banks cannot keep giving bad loans, because it is bad for banks. It's bad for the entire economy. If the borrowers keep on defaulting, banks will not have money at all. And where do banks get money from? Banks get money from the common people, us, the depositors. We deposit money in the bank, and the bank extends that money to the people, the loans, the borrowers, the companies who need that money at a higher interest rate. If a bank defaults, our money is gone, common people's money is gone. That is the biggest problem. Therefore, Raghuram Rajan applied a lot of restrictions when he was working as the RBI governor, and uh, this limited the ability of banks to give more loans. That was the scene when that was the situation when NBFCs came into picture. NBFCs are non-banking financial corporations, and uh, they are not banks. A lot of regulations of banks which are applied to the banks are not applied to an NBFC. They cannot take deposits, uh, but they can give loans, and a lot of NBFCs give a lot of loans. They'll give loans at a higher rate, but since companies and people, they do not have any other source of loan, because the hands of the banks are now tied by regulations and restrictions. It will take time. They cannot give loan to anybody. They have to verify the sources, whereas NBFCs do not have much of these restrictions. Yes, they do have, but they do not have a lot of these restrictions. So they extend loans to a lot of people, a lot of businesses, without verifying the credibility in a lot of situations. What problem does it create? Uh, the same problem it was creating with the banks. NPAs started rising. You do not call it NPA in case of an NBFC, but bad loans started rising, and you saw this reached to a point when ILFS collapsed, and it was a 94,000 crore default. It was a 94,000 crore company, and it defaulted. It was center of all the NBFCs, and other NBFCs used to take loan from it and extend loans to other people, other businesses who needed money. Who were these NBFCs? Uh, DHFL, Piramal Enterprises, uh, Edelweiss, uh, India Bulls Housing Finance. These were the NBFCs which now have, um, in 2018, after the default of ILFS, they had issues raising money, because ILFS, their key financer, did not have any money. Now, uh, since these NBFCs do not have any money, and uh, lots of businesses and people are dependent on the loans extended by these NBFCs, there is a liquidity crunch again. Where do we go here from now? At this point, I'd like to tell you the story of GDP, a small story, a fraction. You know, about 7 to 8% of India's GDP is contributed by the automobile sector. And if you are following the news carefully, you must be aware that um, it's not doing well. So sales are down for the past 1 year. Sales have dipped a lot. Companies are not making. Uh, Companies are closing down their facilities, their production plants for 15 days, 20 days. These Tata Motors, Ashok Leyland, they are closing down their facilities for an extended period of time. India was supposed to grow at 7+% per year. With all these, automobile sector contributing almost 7 to 8%, and it is not growing at all. Even if the rest of the economy is growing, the overall economy is not growing at the rate it should have grown. I'll tell you, the other part of the economy is growing. I'll tell you what are the other parts. How did we get to know that? Recently, there was this um, big billion sales of Flipkart and Amazon shopping festival from October 1st to 6th, and they had extended a lot of offers, and they made a sale of about $3.5 billion, translates to approximately 24,000 crore rupees. So it was a 30 to 40% increase in last year's sales of these companies. Indians are spending. There is the consumption slowdown is not as severe as it sounds. Uh, my personal view is most of the shrink in the GDP. It's not actually a shrink. Most of the uh, sluggishness in the GDP could be contributed to the slowdown of the auto sector, uh, because it constitutes such a big proportion of the GDP. Uh, okay. Um, for the reasons why the auto sector is slowing down, uh, um, there are certain regulatory changes. If you are aware, the BS4 norm is outdated, and from 1st April 2020, governments have to follow BS6 norms. Then we have government is also planning to roll out electric cars, and you must have heard that in the news. And a lot of companies are already focusing on the electric cars. Uh, Traffic congestion in most of the metro cities are increasing. Um, all of these, they are all of these are uh, all of these are contributing to the factor of a consumer's mindset that they are not going ahead with purchasing an automobile. It's not that they do not have money; they have money, but they are simply not going ahead with buying it. Okay, so this is the reason for the auto sector slowdown, and this is causing the entire GDP to slow down. About 50 million people work indirectly or directly with the auto sector, and 5% of them have lost their jobs. It's a huge number. And as we know, consumption is cyclical. Cyclical in this sense, uh, you earn money, you spend it. The people who get money, they spend it, and the people in turn who get money, they spend it again, and the process goes on. If someone loses a job, the entire cycle stops. So there is this multiplier effect. About India has a multiplier effect of about 4 to 5. So if one person loses his job, uh, its overall impact on the economy is about uh, 5 to 6 times he would have spent if he were in the job. Okay. Uh, Now, adding to that, what is the future? What is going to happen? First, uh, a lot of people are saying that government shouldn't have let ILFS default. It should have bailed it out. Yes, that could have been a scenario, but it would send a bad message to the other NBFCs, other banks, that government is always there to back you up. It is, it will always bail you out. I agree that the point at which government made that decision, when banks were not able to give loans, and uh, government should have considered that if they had come in, they had rescued the NBFCs. Uh, the government should have planned the further moves of the economy. If they had rescued the island, if they had rescued the NBFCs, what was going to happen? Probably the slowdown was not going to happen at this scale, and we wouldn't have seen such a slump in GDP. Okay. Uh, Now, this year uh, monsoon stayed there for a longer duration, and we expect that uh, the rural income will, in the coming 6 to 1 year, it will improve, it will increase. The crops are expected to be better. Therefore, rural consumption will increase, which can drive the GDP. But the effect and the final outcome, it will take time. It will take about 1 year of time to show up. Until that time, we do not expect any. Uh, we we do not expect much recovery from this slowdown. And also these auto sector thing. This is going to clear out only after April 2020. So for the next 6 months, do not expect any survival. The markets will not behave. Government will keep intervening. It will keep cutting taxes. RBI has said that it will further cut down the repo rate if it is required, and it will. But there has to be demand. People have to demand things. People are demanding things, but not in the fraction that they should, and not in every industry. There is not in every industry. The demand is not there in every industry, especially in big industries. Let's see what happens. I'll keep updated. I'll keep posted. Okay. Thanks for watching. Bye.